I want a sandwich. Now. Oh, sandwich wench. Yo, wench. Sandwich. Now. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. Oh, sandwich wench. I want a sandwich. Sandwich.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another political recap stream here on the Moisky Live channel. Joining me to talk about some things, no doubt politically motivated, is Trups. Say hello, Trups.
Hello,
Magic.
Trups.
Was that Dr. Pepper?
Diet Pepsi.
Oh really? I thought you were a Dr. Pepper guy. My mistake.
I am. I got lazy when I went to the store. Diet Pepsi was right there in the front, and I was like, oh, well, all right, cool.
It'll do. Fair enough. I'm glad you shared that with the class. How
Yes,
are
of
you
course,
this week?
I'm all right. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too, exciting to talk about,
No?
per se. How about you? Anything for you? Anything interesting?
Well, I built a new desk for my bedroom here, because even though this isn't my full-time office, I did want to replace my desk, and so I did that. I've been sorting out storage boxes for...
joy.
Yeah, it's peak excitement, really. I've been playing games and trying to work up the effort to make videos. I've discovered the end of January, I had this massive meh feeling, which was hardly ideal. So making videos this week was not the easiest, but we got through it. So next week hopefully will be better. Before we continue, of course, thank you to the new followers we have on Rumble. Because if you're on Rumble now and you're watching this on playback, because we do get some views over there, we do appreciate it. We really do. Yeah, thank you for that. It's been a quiet week otherwise for myself, just mostly working, eating lots of chocolate and working. Because I'm excited.
Well, I mean, the chocolate is great.
It is. I was eating some just before we started. It was Hotel Chocolat, white chocolate, heart-shaped with amaretto cream inside. It's amazing. But
It sounds very bougie.
Yeah. But I'm okay with it.
I mean, that's good. I'm glad that you're okay with your bouginess.
I don't get to be bougie very often, so I'll take bougie when bougie
relatable.
presents its bouginess. I'm prepping to go to a gig on Tuesday. I'm going to Glory Hammer in London.
Cool.
Going with
I
a
think you
friend
told me about
who'll be on Monday. He's also bringing down my new sword and the whiskey I couldn't carry back.
Oh, yes, I remember this.
Yeah, and I also made some. But I bought a chalkboard for my bar. I'll have to. I wonder if I can put it on our work 7 and show everyone a picture of it, because I had to put bar rules in place because I know otherwise if I don't have them, I know what Dave's gonna do. Dave will do the opposite. He'll do them, and there was a couple. One's even called the Dave rule. My friend Dave, because he's an idiot. He's not an idiot, but he's clumsy in a silly way. I'll go to the screen capture. Ignore that. It's just our Rumble. If I go to Discord, Discord recap. There we go. I can show it. Here we go. There it is. Right. So here's the picture. That's the bar. It's called the bar rules. I had to introduce some rules quickly. If you're on Rumble, you might see this. You probably won't. I don't know. But one of them is called the David rule because where the wolf statue is, there's normally a ceramic heater stood there. Dave opens the bottle with his hand on the cork, left hand going into the ceramic heater.
Oh, lovely.
He hit that twice. That's a 200-pound heater. If he knocks it off, I can't replace it.
Yep.
So I had to introduce the David rule, along with also no licking bottles at the bar. I thought, it seemed appropriate.
Yeah. I mean that. I'm a little sad you have to make a rule for that.
I am in the context of, I think it highly inappropriate with it there that, I don't want it to interfere with streams because that's normally why we're using the bar.
I meant licking the bottles.
I mean, that too, it's just an old joke, but I think when we're streaming, I don't really want to be reaching over to stop him doing it because I won't. I'm not going to do it.
I mean, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
It's just an old joke between the pair of us, but in the
No,
context,
I mean, I understand. Smooth brain crayon eaters. Like I got that.
Yeah. In the context of the bottles, like we're doing a stream on Wednesday, I don't want those licked. Straight up, they're too expensive. You can go no, you can get a disinfectant wipe and clean those now.
I licked it. Now it's mine.
Oh, you can't even try that with me. I'd be so angry. I genuinely would be as well.
No, Orla.
Well, that's a bit thirsty. Anyway, so the week's been a bit over here. I had some sources for this. The UK's been a bit quiet, right?
Okay.
But it's mostly been based on potential promises from the likes of Labour. I did see PMQs briefly, and Labour did their usual, I'm going to pwn you with a couple words and make it seem like I'm talking big. But Labour's main thing right now is kind of mixed messages. Because Labour, they have a problem, right? Their only way to help the people as they see it would be to raise corporation tax. But when Labour did that 14 years ago, when they were in government, it pushed many businesses out of this country and led to a mountain of problems. They had to be tempted back. And of course, when Brexit happened, that caused other issues, but it wasn't a huge deal, really. But the corporation tax issue is a big one because when the finance sector is such a big part of your economy, the last thing you want to do is punish them for doing a good job too much. Right? There's got to be a balance, of course there is, but it's a very delicate game. Labour, though, have a tendency to go ham on that and hit them hard. However, their current Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has promised they're not going to raise corporation tax if they're elected. Now, I think on the face of this, it is a lie because they would have to, because I can't imagine they're going to be able to raise the money they would need to, and I'll say the word invest. It's not that at all. It's called throw at until it sticks. It's the Tylenol method. To try and fix these areas of society that need fixing. Don't forget here, they want to spend £9 million on teaching 3 to 5-year-olds how to brush their teeth.
Yes, I recall.
Which, no,
Still disappointed.
It's a massive waste of, I'd rather, if you're going to do that, just buy them all toothbrushes. If they don't use it for the teeth, that sounds like a them problem. If their parents haven't taught them, that's probably because their parents never brushed their teeth either. Okay? Anyway, yeah. So their current promise is instead to provide stability to business because
our new empire.
Yeah, over the last Parliament, the business taxes have seen 26 changes. Now, this is actually a big problem because the Conservatives, it's a fine balance for them to keep their wealthy donors in. But changing the rules or the system so many times is not going to, it's not going to encourage any support for the Conservatives, who are, they're kind of screwed anyway. Now, Rachel Reeves says she's going to cap the tax at 25%, but could cut it to boost competitiveness, which is another term that baffles me with Labour, because what I have learnt from Labour when I was a kid is they don't know what competitiveness is. Their problems in the way this is where it's a really different attempt from Labour to be a very different style of party, because when they were New Labour, they just threw money at everything until it resolved what they considered the problem to be, which bred a generation of entitled dickheads who realised all they had to do was pop out a child and be single, maybe, and they get a home. and they'd have benefits to live on for as many years as they could. They get more money than somebody working. This version of Labour is apparently trying to be a bit more
We have that
understanding.
too, by the way.
Well, firms with profits over £250,000, the tax rate is 25% lower than other countries, which would be US, Germany, France, basically most G7 countries. Smaller companies pay then a sliding scale of corporation tax down to 19%. 19% is, oddly enough, that sort of bracket area where I sit on self-employment. It's not a huge deal, but obviously I'm much lower income. But the way that Labour are framing this makes it seem like they're going to erase the past, like an executive order. You know all about those in your country. And just simply try and empathise with the sector they have long not really understood, which I'm quite curious about. It doesn't make me want to vote for them, just to be clear, because just because I'm curious doesn't mean I'd be, I wouldn't want to enable a risk. I need to know what the plan is. And this plan so far seems to be using terms like striking the correct balance between the needs of our public finances and the demands of a competitive global economy, which tells me you're going to be the arbiter of truth. And I don't know. That doesn't make me want to vote for you just because you think you can be the arbiter of truth. It's an appeal to authority. Rachel Reeves is not qualified for that. Not that Jeremy Hunt, the current Chancellor, is any better, quite frankly. He's only there basically. He is Chancellor in name only until they're voted out of office. Later this year, around the time your former president gets found guilty in a court, which we'll get to, I'm sure.
Allegedly, yeah.
Well, he said it himself, I believe. It's quite funny, really. Let's see here. I should say hello to people in the chat. Hello, Julia. Hello, Trups. Hello, Ola. And hello, Bri. Hope you're well. Spread awareness about brushing teeth. They should be doing targeting parents. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, but £9 million is definitely not worth it, to be honest. Whereas Wildling, she is out with her father having dinner.
I think there's a real problem with the culture in the country if your government so much as thinks that even having an effort to encourage proper hygiene is a necessary thing, because that would have been something that your parents would teach you, right? Like as a kid growing up, this is something that your parents should handle.
To be honest, I'd expect it to be treated like the intro to walking into a Shawshank prison. Just before you go into school, you have to strip off. They hose you down and then throw the freaking powder on you. Yeah? The delousing, yeah? And then you get to go to class.
Not as familiar, but sure, why not?
Okay. It's the old-fashioned thing of making sure someone's clean before they go into a prison. It's a nanny state enthusiasm thing. Have you not seen Shawshank Redemption?
It's been a hot minute, dude.
It's on every year at Christmas, because apparently it's a Christmas movie here.
Sure, why not?
I have it on my YouTube, so I quite like it. But it's that point of, if the government could mandate it so a child would have to go into a school, have a shower at the school, brush their teeth at the school, and then be checked by someone, they would do it as well. But at the same time, they don't actually care. They just want to be seen pretending to look like they're doing something. Throwing £9 million at brushing your teeth is just a pointless way of making billboard signs and advertising. You may as well be making a movie. These are the things that British people do wrong, and it'd be a YouTube short. It'd be one word: existing. That's what the British people need to fix.
This theory hurts my brain.
Yeah, well, the British governments, past, present, and the inevitable future, don't quite grasp what freedom is. They never have, because they've always wanted to micromanage. They're the parent that watches you put spread on your sandwich and tells you when you've taken one too many biscuits out of a jar. Yeah, they're that kind. They're not the ones that give you that. They don't like to give you leeway. And I find that quite tragic and embarrassing. It's why I've tried my best over the years to be as far removed from being, in like out and about as I can be. I just don't want to engage with this absolute crap. I thought I'd start with that. There is also another thing that Labour are doing to contradict themselves. It concerns their pledge a 28 billion pound green investment pledge. Now, Labour is committed what they claim to be a greater public investment. So basically, they're going to borrow shitloads of money off gilts, up the interest that we have to pay on these gilts, and our GDP is going to go plummeting because of it, because of the interest we're paying on it, just so they can be seen looking good for the first 5 years, and they can be voted out because they would have done something, but not at the same time. Then austerity comes back. He can't though now. He had previously promised this green investment, which is why the 28 billion, it comes around. But when Rachel Reeves addressed this, she said all policies have to be consistent with our fiscal rules. What fiscal fucking rules? If they're as bad as what Corbyn's were 4 to 5 years ago, they're going to be like vague statements of, oh, we've got these 7 pillars of wisdom. You must now abide these terms for it to be a fiscal rule. Like, shut the fuck up. You rubbed a lamp, haven't you? Expecting a bloody genie. Hello, Lisa, and hello, Leona.
So I guess my only question is actually as a more of an observation thing. But have you seen what has been your observation regarding your country's overall like GDP economy? How is it right now? Because this is actually a very curious thing that I have going on.
As far as I was aware, we were supposed to have gone into a recession multiple times. Interest has gone up. I've seen mortgages for some in many areas go up, but that's always matching the ridiculous skyrocketing cost of living in those areas. So if you ignore London, things are a bit different. But then you go to seaside towns, it's gone up in a number of key areas. But then that's also because of the way the economy has gone, it has stymied a lot of development. Take, for example, there's a seaside town that I don't go to because I think it's crap, called Folkestone. And they're building these flats right by the seafront, in fact. Some of these flats, 1-bedroom one, will cost £350,000, whereas a penthouse in that same building will cost £3 million. Folkestone does not have a cost of living to justify that cost. I promise you that. No, Folkestone is nowhere near that expensive. You could buy all of Folkestone for £3 million. It's an absolute dive, okay? It's a shithole, all right? You could buy about 100 houses for that money because it is a genuine dump, okay? And so that problem, because it's been building, but it's stopped because they haven't been able to keep up with the expense side. But they also got other things to build towards it. But it's the cost of all the materials now going up as well. So as far as I'm aware, the economy's not doing great. The government continually claim it's going up, but it's not, because interest is still going up. The only thing I've seen fluctuate on a regular is the cost of fuel. That seems to go up and down, up and down, up and down. But it's really complicated to know as far as the whole nation. My area, it seems to be a case that what people are doing to stop the cost of living hurting is reducing the size of the food you can buy. Something as simple as going to a bakery and buying a donut. The donut's now half the size. It's a 2-bite donut as opposed to 4 in the past.
Right.
And that's where the real damage is, I get, because now people are being more restricted on what they can get.
Well, okay. The reason why I asked is because we've had a very interesting contradictory sentiment being expressed in the States.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of individuals who will go on, economists who will go on news agencies, your typical money shows that air. They're all saying that our economy is great. Like, they just did our last numbers, like, oh, we added another 300,000 jobs.
Right.
Okay. That is what they're saying, and okay.
Well, are they actually new jobs, or are they jobs people are getting back?
I don't know. I would assume at this point it would be new jobs.
So because we know this was an inflated number during and just after COVID.
Well, yeah, but I think by this point, if the numbers are true, I think at this point we would have returned back. The other issue is that while you add jobs, so basically meaning I have said that we are hiring.
Yeah.
But people can apply, and I don't have to hire them. Right. This has been expressed on different, actually, TikTok posts as well as some Twitter posts. We're saying like, yeah, everyone's hiring allegedly, but no one's offering jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
And the reason why I bring it up at all is because we have seen several industries doing a lot of layoffs. So specifically, tech industries were the ones that people took notice of the most. You had anything from Microsoft to Google.
Well, Microsoft is an interesting one because they've been there's rumors they're going to lay off their entire physical media wing for like Xbox, which I'd heard about for months now, and I'll be honest, I've got a Series S in my room. I barely play it. I prefer physical media. I prefer putting a cartridge into a Switch. The only time I'm really comfortable is playing on the Steam Deck or on my PC.
But well, that's a different problem entirely.
Yeah. But then if they're what I mean is, you mentioned layoffs with Microsoft. The physical media wing is a casualty of this because they're changing to be more digital, and I think that's a separate problem as well of controlling people's lives through digital media.
Yeah.
Which ties into the earlier stuff about nanny state enthusiasm, but through companies.
Well, yeah, but also like I think that plays into a larger problem with the desires of like companies like Ubisoft, for instance.
Yeah. Oh God, mate.
You saw that article too, where their headline was essentially "Get used to not owning your games."
Yeah. No, I own my Assassin's Creed games on the PlayStation and I own them on the Switch. I will never give up that freedom. I know the annoying thing I find with a lot of games now is owning the physical media is not the only problem. You still have to then have access to download updates for it.
Mm-hmm.
But then the point really, the Microsoft layoffs, the digital era is changing the market, but that's the nature of employment changing. It happened during a vast industrial revolution when that started to die off and it became more machine based building.
Right.
It changed the market. Mining as well, that changed a lot as well. But when you didn't need as many people, layoffs happen. The market has to change every time, and this is going to be another one of those times.
Mm-hmm. But what's really curious to me is that okay, so economists are telling us that everything is good.
Yeah.
Investors are saying that we're adding all these jobs. I'm reading an article right now that says that Dow closed up over 350 points.
Yeah.
That was posted 23 hours ago. So
yeah.
Wall Street is expecting the U.S. economy to have added 176,500 jobs last month, with unemployment rate rising to 3.8%. But it says here, according to the new report by global outplacement firm Challenger, Gray and Christmas layoffs in January increased by 136% from the month prior. In total, 82,307 workers were let go by U.S.-based employers in the first month of the year, so this is just January, marking the highest number of January layoffs since 2009.
So this is actually something Ola's pointed out in the chat, in that economies have been apparently growing, yet there's been an increase in destitution. Countries like ours are some of the most wealthy in the world, but that poverty is still growing as well. And to be honest, there's a point to that. But there's a point of you'll never cure the problems in your own backyard when you constantly seek to help everyone else as well. Which is why I've seen many accusations levied at the likes of Biden of late, which we'll get to as well. But the where is it? It was another comment you've made, Ola. Where is it? You've written a lot. You know what? I can't be asked. No, it's the cost of living being affected as well. You can have one of the biggest economies, but if your average shop's gone up by 70%, as Ola you've referenced, then that extra money apparently in your pocket that the governments like to brag about, or all these extra new jobs that have been created, means sod all. because it's not helping you, the person who voted or may or have voted for these people who made these mistakes, and they won't admit their mistakes because they're too arrogant.
Right. But apparently, that the financial sector saw more layoffs than any other industry, with 23,000 workers laid off. That was
makes
followed
sense.
by a tech sector with almost 16,000.
The finance one I get though. The finance one I get because, like in my country, especially, banks are closing down.
Well, yeah, they're closing physical locations.
Yeah. So that actually I get that. That would harm employment, and that's the nature of market changing as it becomes more digitized. Again, something I disagree with. Physical money is better than digital. I don't want to leave a trace. I don't care for the trail. It's my money. I also I don't like it also because banks in this country have actually closed people's accounts for what can be considered wrong thing, and I don't agree with that.
Now, I do take issue a bit with Orla's last comment, and it's just do bear in mind 50% the reason inflation is as high as it is because companies are allowed to arbitrarily raise their prices for no reason because profit. Yes and no. Yes, I understand what you're saying, and I do recognize that is a factor. I don't necessarily agree that we can just presume that is the reason in which, or at least 50% of the reason why inflation is good, or as high as it is, especially given that we watched an injection of billions of dollars, at least in America wise, during COVID. The whole structure that we had put in place in order to actually like perform the duties of what Trump had promised, as well as Biden with the individual stimulus checks. That was unprecedented, and I mean the amount of money printing that we performed then is astronomical, and I don't think that we've gotten back into a position where we can really say that we've recovered from such flagrant amounts of printing money.
Yeah, quantitative easing. I don't care for that at all. We did it when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister as a way to get people to spend money, and they didn't. They put it under their mattresses. It caused a crash. I take issue with something similar with the COVID stuff because lots of businesses got bailouts. But when it came to many claiming that money when they didn't need it, right? Or getting it wrongly and never paying it back.
You know that
the
government was one of the companies that got money?
The government wrote it all off though, and instead they're focusing their energy on lower income people who might have claimed a couple £100 wrong. And I'm like, bitch, there are billions to claim back over there, and you'd rather chase somebody for a couple £100 and then fine them into oblivion or put them in prison, which costs even more money. Get your priorities straight.
Oh, don't even get me started on different tax law. I can go off on that for quite some time.
I find it irritating because, to me, they have made it quite... They clearly aren't interested in getting back what the people are owed. It was like when we bailed Halifax out, the Royal Bank of Scotland. When we bailed them out, we took ownership of part of it. Okay. That's what we had to do. We never got our fucking money back. We should have. I didn't want to own a bank in the first place. We should have gotten up. If you're going to buy back a public service, don't bail out RBS because they're Scottish anyway. It was their bloody fault in the first place, and it caused massive problems for the rest of us. Honestly, and a lot of what governments in this country especially, they don't do anything to actually stimulate the economy or help the economy. They make it seem like they are because they say, oh, we created these jobs. You've not created any jobs at all. You've changed the nature of the market, so newer jobs have been created, but older jobs that existed previously have been erased. The current state of employment in this country hasn't really changed much, and it's going to get worse anyway as the nature of it changes even further. And if we go into a recession, it'll get even worse. That's the consequence of and that's where election season becomes quite fascinating to me because you'll see them fluff themselves up, but I'm watching people fluff themselves up with nothing to back it up.
Well, yeah, and that as well as the comment that Orla just made. I'm sorry, I'm using you as an example, but you're just there and you're making.
Your
points, so I
type,
might as well.
all our types a lot, so it's fine.
Oh, that's. I mean, they're making valid and interesting comments. So like, sorry, I'm singling you out, but
You are being sherminated. What?
no, I appreciate the engagement. It helps
We do.
the economy to look good when you have a lot of wealthy people. This is kind of along the same lines as the fluffing up that you're talking about. It's the same with the wealthy people. They're increasing their wealth, personal wealth. The problem is everyone else, right? I had this argument with somebody discussing taxes because they were the typical leftist who was trying to argue for the point of and, we need to put a mandatory 25% tax on billionaires, right?
Oh god, I've seen that, like the 50% one. No, you don't need billions of pounds, do you? Like, that's not the bloody point.
And I asked them, I'm like, actually, I'm in favor of abolishing both income tax and capital gains tax. They come back at me saying, well, that's essentially wealth consolidation. I go, no, it's not, because they're not paying income tax anyway. Their companies all get their write-offs because based on political contributions or the amount reinvested in their business or charitable donations, in which most cases they own those charities too.
Yeah.
Like, those are your other side to the argument. To say that, oh well, they won't have X, Y, or Z about the whole situation. Like, no,
no, I get you.
You are smoking something if you think that just because there is a tax, that people pay specifically that tax.
I saw a fascinating YouTube video talking about
it, though.
I saw a fascinating YouTube video about Elon Musk and his wealth. He is considered the world's richest man. He apparently what he does to reduce his tax is he takes loans and dividends instead, which is exempt from a number of taxes.
Yes.
And I genuinely sit back and go, I don't actually care, because it's not a salary, therefore I don't really give a shit, do I? The capital gains thing, though, is a fascinating one, because I remember last year talking to an individual on the phone about investing in a whiskey barrel, and the guy pointed out to me, you need 5-10 years, and it's actually exempt from capital gains tax, and I was like, you now have my undivided attention. I was like, yes, let's talk some more.
What's fascinating about how Elon does it is actually something that other people have talked about as well. The idea that you would never have actual funds, right? You never want liquid asset, and this is not financial advice. This is just what somebody has said in the past. I don't even know if they're a credible source, but it's an interesting conversation. And the idea is you never want anything to be in liquid, because your liquid asset will essentially be constantly deteriorating. You always wanted to have it in an asset, and that asset can be literally anything, whether it's a car, a loan, a piece of property. Those are the kinds of things that you want to always have investments in. And basically the argument was that if you do that, then until you sell the product, it's unrealized gains, right?
Yeah, it's the unrealized potential thing, isn't it?
Right. So that's not taxable because you haven't sold it. Therefore, there's no tax. There's no gain to be made. Yeah. And the other thing is, your wealth will vary with the market. So let's just say I buy a car, and cars right now very, very expensive. Even beaters, like old cars.
Oh yeah, lemon cars, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Ones that don't work.
Mm-hmm.
Cars are pricey.
And so, okay, cool. So I buy a car, and that car now is going to be worth, let's just say things continue the way they are going now. Well, that means that by this time next year, that car may be worth more, and I have just made money. It's that kind of like the investment idea there is, it's very very commonly understood.
Yeah. I like the idea of how some people are considered so wealthy yet not at the same time. I'm fascinated by that. I'm fascinated by, especially the Elon Musk one, because you didn't realize he just gets by on loans and dividends. I think it's kind of clever because you don't have to pay tax on that. And he can just, and he's moving. I think Tesla's physical head office now to Texas, isn't he? He did a vote on it on Twitter. I saw. I kind of get it because, well, I'm surprised it wasn't there anyway. He's very active in the political space on Twitter. He was commenting on the recent individual who assaulted some police officers and got off with nothing.
Oh yes.
Thoughts? I thought deportation personally.
At the very least, how about just arrest him and put him in jail? The guy got off with a bail optional was the condition, but it was released. The person was released.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me that what you are going to offer from a law enforcement perspective is you will allow other people, other cops, to be assaulted, beaten in the street by multiple people, and the 4 people who were most at fault get let go. Okay. I actually heard MSNBC talking about this morning, and the irony on this is really palpable because even Joe Scarborough, who is an absolute fucking bellend,
demonetized.
Yes, well, that's fine. Actually was trying to make the argument that, well, of course, with what happened with, George Floyd, well, of course, something related to anti-cop sentiment like that was going to happen, and that's expected. But even he was going, but what level does that go to? And I'm sitting there like, oh my god, that's a great question. At what level do we say, or do the Democrats look at each other and go, stop, you're a psycho?
Well, we can add to that. First of all, hello Shady Lane and Fubar Freak. If I've missed anyone, do say hello again so we can haze you. We can include Aidan Mace Zeropsky, the 24-year-old former legislative aide to the Democratic Senator Ben Cardin, who was fired after recording a sex act in a certain building.
Yep.
Now, this was under investigation by the Capitol Police, who have concluded their investigation and decided that he and his partner will not face any criminal charges. What are your thoughts on that?
Chalk another one up for Democrats not wanting to actually enforce laws. I mean, these are all the same thing.
I assumed this was now this is my first thought. I assumed the reason the Capitol Police decided to not address the fact that there is a likely violation of congressional policy, that they were worried about being accused of being homophobic. It sounds cliche at this point.
I would hate the idea that is the thing that makes people the most concerned. Oh, I can't prosecute the person who was caught having sex in a public location. There are decency laws, by the way.
There are. Would you
At
like
the very least, there's a fine in it.
So that's true.
Related.
Hello, Bubbly Production. I will read a statement from Aidan, if you'd like.
Oh, please.
This has been a difficult time for me, as I have been attacked for who I love to pursue a political agenda. I'm not done yet. While some of my actions in the past have shown poor judgment, I love my job and would never disrespect my workplace.
Good.
I assume what they did afterwards was get a towel and wipe down all the surfaces. And any attempts To characterize my actions otherwise are fabricated, and I will explore what legal options are available to me in these matters. It feels like the I want to chew bubblegum and eat some ass, and I'm all out of gum. Because that's all. It's Duke Nukem, but completely perverted.
Oh no, I understand.
This is hilarious to me. You say I would never disrespect my workplace, bitch. You were boning in an office, in a workplace. How is that? Were you writing on a post-it? I love my job, perhaps. Because I could
my job.
I could have sworn they were quite tightly
and
gripping a table.
It in the butthole.
Taking out the chaff, mate. No, it's just. I'm sorry, but you got fired. You had a video getting bummed, bummed, whatever. You did the dirty. And you got found out. Surely, you should be facing charges for what Trups mentioned, and also possible violations of congressional policy.
At the very least. Oh my god.
Like, fam, you were
an aide.
Yeah, and a congressional staffer involved had access to the room. Like, you and your partner screwed up, and hello Zamizi, hook your bell. And yes, they live. I've got that movie on my YouTube. It's funny. Yeah, I just know this is terrible. But again, it's not a surprise. Why'd that be? Whatever. Yeah, I find this terrible that we've seen it under Trump as well. There were many things coming out that didn't make him look good or professional. Remember those? Some of it was some of it was kind of pointless and egregious. But this is completely the wrong way. This is like a skew into the perverse area, right?
Yes, I would say so.
And I don't mean to sound like Trump got accused on a regular of being unpresidential. Mm-hmm. Under Biden's watch, this shit is happening. And this is the same president who has been quoted as saying, I've done all I can for the border.
Oh, yeah. And then says that provide this legislation and I will shut down the border right now.
He called a mother who'd lost her son, I believe, in war of some kind. And he said that he lost his son in a war. Which isn't true.
No, it's not.
No, his son died a few years later.
Cancer.
Yeah.
His wife knows that, by the way. Jill will constantly remind people the actual story.
Yes, this was a phone call that was broadcast on telly that he was from the perspective of the mother receiving the call. Like, how defective are you? I know right now we've got a chance that Trump might not even be allowed to stand later in the year, which we'll get to in a second because we're going to have to anyway. But fuck me, Biden's really testing it, especially when we had the staffer come out and say, or an aide or a staffer say that Kamala Harris, however you pronounce her bloody name, is on the ballot, and there's a concern about her being... There we go. Yes, whoever. There's a worry about them being on the ballot in the first place because they're a bit loose, canon-wise, not any other way.
I was gonna say what?
You know, I meant like unpredictable. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
And then you.
I mean, I know the story of how she got her position, but Jesus.
It was all hushed up, you know. And then you've got
certainly hushed.
Well, yes, and then you've got the guy who has now been confirmed by the same guy to be less mentally capable than he was when he started, and he wasn't very.
I do love James O'Keefe.
Is that in the chat? Yeah, it is, isn't it? Is it in the chat?
No, I said it.
Oh, okay, I get that.
Because I know where it came from.
Oh, I'm glad you do.
I paid attention a little bit.
I like that. That's all right. But yeah, I find it fascinating that you've seen. I've got an article actually. I've got some here. Where is it? That's Labour. Let's close those. Apparently, in your country right now, jobs are hot, and the economy is doing well. So the brag was 353,000 jobs, and your unemployment is 3.7%. Hourly earnings grew by 4.5%, but including that, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, I'll put this on the screen, announced a domestic product grow by 3.3%. So what's the complaint? and it's down here. Biden, a CNN poll shows Biden's approval at 37%. Oh, sorry, yeah, 37%, which is not too bad for a president seeking re-election. Not bad at all. The numbers are considered fatal as he faces Trump. Now, not only do people disapprove of Biden's management of the economy, they think he's actively making it worse. This is from CNN of all things.
Mm-hmm.
I find that quite, and it's because the one thing that's really set him up for failure is he's ditched Bidenomics. And you remember this, the Build Back Better plan.
I do.
He couldn't get it through. He couldn't get it through before Republicans took the House.
Mm-hmm.
That's how shit it was. He couldn't get the backing of his own sodding party to get it through. And then when the Republicans took over the House, he was screwed.
And then, even the article really spells it out. It's because Biden may say, and this is the disconnect from people up on high, right, and people who are living their normal lives like you and I.
Yeah.
The people on high are probably doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I bet you they're doing perfectly fine, and all of their goings on is probably great. They're probably being able to ride the investment, buy dips in the stock market, look at their property is going up in value, and they're probably like, oh, this is not so bad. I've got enough to go on, and we're doing fine.
Yeah.
Versus everybody else who is like, what do you mean? Like I get the same paycheck all the time, and what do you mean it's not going as far anymore? I vaguely remember mentioning this comment a long time ago when I had said like, oh yeah, people are realizing that their paychecks are not going as far anymore.
It's oddly enough, that is a recurring problem now, though, isn't it? Where
yes,
it's getting, and that's why I mentioned earlier bakeries reducing the size of the food they sell, but not upping the price. So you get the same amount of food, but you don't at the same time.
Yeah, I believe they have coined that shrinkflation, which is a bag of fucking whatever chips.
Well, it was something as simple as 120-gram bar of chocolates now got down to 100.
Right.
That's very noticeable.
But it's still the same price.
Yes, or it's gone down to 100 grams, and the price has gone up by 25%. So we originally £1 for a bar that size. Mm-hmm. Now it's 125, and you're getting 20 grams less.
Mm-hmm. I know people don't like Nestle, but
Galaxy's okay.
I mean, but like the best example I can give in American terms is actually a Crunch bar, because those things used to be $1.
Yeah, I like Crunch bars.
They're like Rice Crisps in.
Yeah, they're banging. And also, if you buy the big ones, you can break bits off, and it's nice and blocky. I love it.
Yes, I do actually.
It's like
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's like eating cereal.
It's like chocolate popcorn.
Yeah, and without the kernels breaking my teeth, it's even better.
Oh yeah, and nothing getting stuck in like the gums of your teeth, which is even worse.
That is actually worse. You're quite right.
I hate that. That is the absolute fucking.
I'm too old for that shit. Too old for that shit.
Anyway, but like that stuff, I used to be able to get like 2 for $2.
Yeah.
Now it is 2 for $3.
Sounds.
Wait, hold on. How the fuck did we get here?
The only time I'm willing to pay, silly obscene amounts of money is when I'm buying bougie chocolate, as we spoke of before I started streaming. Before we started streaming, I was eating Hotel Chocolat. I've got it here actually in my rucksack because I've meant to take it to a gig. It's Hotel Chocolat Amaretto Cream, and it's exceedingly delicious, heart-shaped, because they're Valentine's Day ones, and I thought, no, I'm having them now. And I mentioned it to Trups, and his response was, sounds bougie. But I'm not going to pay that any other time. I'm not going to... I want to buy chocolate. It's that thing of, I want things that serve a function. That is just a treat. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Any other time. I don't want my standard chocolate to be bougie in cost. I don't expect bougie quality. I expect quality. A certain quality with, certain brands. Yeah.
Yeah, I expect the quality that I pay for.
Yeah, but I'm not going to pay. I'm going to pay as much as I do for the bougie chocolate. for a standard bar chocolate. It's not. No, that's not how this works. Okay, but with the cost of living going up and everything skyrocketing, it's inevitable. And no, I don't. Somebody had mentioned the idea of having in I can't remember which country it was. I put it in a video and I thought it was hilarious. Oh, it was the protesting one, the Sweet Mona Lisa one. The food protesters, they want to have a guaranteed food allowance per month for every citizen in the country of 150 euros per month.
Jesus
and
Christ.
I thought on the face of the idea of that, you have essentially said we're going to seize some form of means of production to be able to do this, to enforce.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
But then that sounds eerily like rations to me, and I don't want governments to have that power.
It totally is.
I don't want governments to have that. I don't want them to have any power at all over the people, and that kind of power is dangerous. Because if you can control what kind of, I mean, if you give them 150 euros a month, yeah, or 150 dollars a month, or 150 pounds a month, in my house, per person, 150 pounds a month, yeah, that would feed every person in this house because we each, as a citizen, get 150, right? That makes sense.
Right.
But I'll be honest, if cost of living goes up too much, it won't go very far at all. Would $150 feed you for a month, for example, based on your cost of living?
150, I can make it work.
Yeah, I could a month easily because I it's just me. Yeah, I live on like, well, once I get back into the shred of this month anyway, because I took last month off. I thought it's too cold. I can't be arsed. I'll start cutting in February. I'll start on Monday. No, I can make 150 work. Yes, but how would you get that? How would the government get that money in the first place? And that's where I know it's not worth it.
Or better yet, so okay, if they're basically saying that your food, right, is something that the government is going to basically subsidize, does that mean that farmers no longer have control of their own farms?
Well,
let's just say fresh produce.
Yeah, that's why farmers in France, for example, have been protesting so much, because the government has made it impossible for them to get by. And that's why they're hurling literal like hoses of manure at police cars or dumping manure in tax offices, which I put in videos. I'm just like, this is too funny. It has to be. It's too funny. You French idiots deserve this. And I don't. To be able to afford such an idea is impossible. We all know that. 150 per citizen. Your country couldn't do it.
Definitely not.
Mine can't do it. We're some of the biggest economies in the world. We can't do it.
150 per citizen. Hold on. Let me do a little bit of numbers real quick.
I'll do one on my end just for a laugh. I'll base it on a rough idea.
Yeah.
So
you're looking at the distribution of $49.5 billion a month.
Mine. I'm going to say, I can't remember if my population's 80 million or 75. I'm going with 75 because it's funnier. It's 11.25 billion per month.
A month.
Like, bitch, I am not.
A year. That is like almost $600 billion a year.
Mine, 134.4 billion a year. I'm not okay with that because in our economy is not as big as America's. And that's no, we can't. And I wouldn't want that either. Because don't forget here, then, if they also mandate what you can receive, they will mandate what you can use it on, food-wise. I mean, it should be used on food, of course, but they'll tell you what foods you're allowed to have. And it's up to you. That's the point of freedom.
Okay, so we have things like SNAP and EBT, which are essentially ways that the government tells you, like, how they want you to spend your money.
Yeah.
And the terrible thing about it is that it doesn't cover things like fresh produce. It covers things like snack foods.
Yeah.
And like stuff of that nature. It doesn't cover as much, things that are healthy for you. Okay. And that has been a lot of complaints from people who have ever been on EBT or SNAP benefits. Basically saying that, okay, well, I can't really do much with this because this, like, how do you expect people to live a healthier lifestyle when this is the things that you offer them?
Yeah, no, I agree. This is, by the way, this is something that's getting, and as much as I've seen so many articles, and I've archived about a dozen articles for this, basically bigging up Biden's patient approach to the economy. I'm like, bitch, you get 4 years and you need to make change within the first 2 or you're fucked. This is not a patient approach. This is a guy who now has no idea what to do because his Build Back Better plan, we love alliteration, failed. And even if he got a second term, he still wouldn't be able to get that Build Back Better plan through. He knows this because he had enough people on his side that hated it and stood against it. It's just, it's an embarrassment. And this has gotten worse and worse over the years. So you can say it happened under Trump a little bit as well, but I would argue it's very different. What hurt him the most was COVID. And not the fact that the Democrats were laughably impeaching him twice.
True.
But the issue is now we're entering the election season. All I'm seeing are articles fluffing Biden and ignoring the reality. And the reality, I've seen it from people who on my server, they complained, they're American and they're complaining about the quality or how far their money goes and how they're struggling to get by. Even something as simple as $1 a month on Patreon is too much because of where things are going for them. And I get that. I've always said that, you know, you put your life first. I would never ever take issue with that. But if you
I make it work.
Yeah, that's nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know that money could have been better spent on Dr. Pepper or Knob Creek if you have any left.
I don't drink all that much anymore.
I'm very sorry to hear that. I'm very sorry to hear that. Yeah. Your liver may find a new home, and it's okay. I have space for it. I have space for it. When it decides to pack up and leave you, I'm there. I'm here for it.
That's funny.
I've got you, bro. I'm talking to your liver, not you.
Live vicariously through you.
So, behind closed doors, it was alleged that Biden has referred to Donald Trump as and I'll quote this, a sick fuck.
Yep. I saw that article too.
Okay, good. Now, let's see here. Where Mr. Biden this last month appeared to come close to swearing in public about Trump when he gave a speech at the Valley Forge to mark the 3rd anniversary of the January 6th insurrection. At Donald Trump's rally, he jokes about an intruder whipped up by the big Trump lie, taking a hammer to Paul Pelosi's skull. And he thinks that's funny. What a sick fuck. Although, to be honest, I still find it quite funny that you've got a guy assaulting a police officer, right? He doesn't get any charges. You have another guy who is accused of being violent in the Capitol when all he did was sit at a desk. And he went to prison and spent a lot of time in solitary called Mantar.
True.
I know they're completely different, but it's still funny to me that one was actually very peaceful from what we now know compared to the other guy who assaulted a police officer and is lucky to not have a knee on the back of his neck.
Yeah, shocker, right?
Oh, we should test this system. Anyway, yeah, so there was that. There was also talk about South Carolina, where it says, the article from the BBC is titled, "Are Black Voters Losing Faith in Joe Biden?" I'll put it on the screen for those who are interested on YouTube.
Probably.
Yeah. It says, it's basically a story, okay? But it comes from a New York Times and Siena College poll that found 6 key swing states. 71% of black votes would back Biden, which is down from 92%. And they're considered votes that Biden can't afford to lose. And the win over Trump was considered in part because of black voters and not the fact that we saw, for example, in Nevada, 100,000+ votes were illegal. Yeah, there's no election fraud here, folks. We don't support that. What do you think of the poll there indicating a swing of 20% of voters going a different way? Because don't forget here that in the state of South Carolina, I don't know what the representation is racially, but it's very black. That's good to know, because if that's a huge amount of votes for then Trump to receive, as opposed to a state that where African Americans or Black Americans would be a minority in a state, and this 20% would be sod all.
I think that with what they're going to hope for,
yeah,
if they are truly going to have a swing of that many,
yeah,
going towards Trump, then they're going to. I mean, South Carolina was not a place that they were going to lose anyway.
no, they weren't.
That Trump was going to lose anyway. But that does not necessarily mean that the opportunity for more black votes doesn't carry weight elsewhere.
So I should point out, because I've got the census in South Carolina. It's a large African American or Black American percentage. It's 26.3% of the entire state population. That's quite a lot. 68.9%, so close to the magical number, is white alone. But as you have pointed out, in 2020, South Carolina's kind of safe, isn't it? Or was that North Carolina?
Well, I don't know. South Carolina is very, very black.
I'm going to quickly pull up the.
It's also very white. It really depends on which city you're in.
Oh right, sorry, my mistake. South Carolina voted. They voted for Trump in 2020. Biden wouldn't win the state anyway. I completely
not even close.
I thought of another state. My mistake.
Went blue-ish was Charleston.
But then I don't understand why this article even exists then, because why have you included South Carolina when, if Biden's carried him over the popular vote, the popular vote means sod all?
Because the same reason why they have argued in the past that we should abolish the Electoral College.
Oh, I remember that when Trump won. Remember all the celebrities doing it? I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, they want to get rid of it because they believe that the popular vote should, in fact, be the case, because they believe that we live in a democracy when we don't. We live in a republic.
That's what I remember saying, because I didn't know what a republic was back then. And then someone had told me, and I was like, okay, well, that's America then, right? And they're like, yeah. I remember this, and it was so funny to me to see Robert Downey Jr. or Mark Ruffalo, whoever it was, making these same arguments. And I'm like, but if you did it by popular, if you did it by popular vote, you'd never see a Republican president.
Actually, if you did it by popular vote, then every Republican would have a reason to go out to the polls. So a lot of Republicans don't vote in places like New York and California because their vote doesn't matter.
That's the thing, though. I don't know whether Yes, true. I don't know enough. I guess we wouldn't have certain until that happened. But I don't believe. I'm not as convinced that they'd be able to swing it. But it might get more people engaged in the political game for a time. It'd be a very bad way of undermining the entire pantomime or show of your politics, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, absolutely, it still is a show, if nothing else. It still is absolutely like
it's very minimalist.
It is fake. It is kind of fake.
It's very like, WWE, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Like,
there
is a script.
It's very minimalist this year. It's very feng shui. It's very like everything. All the chakras have got to be in the right place for Biden to actually do something.
They don't even believe that. With the release of James O'Keefe's video, even staffers in the White House don't believe it.
The O'Keefe video is so funny though. I so badly want to see him debate. I would have watched him debate Vivek. Okay, I'd have watched him debate Chris Christie. I'd watch him debate Nikki Haley just to watch her try and inflate her own sense of importance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to see these, but I doubt we're going to see more than one debate, and it's going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
Trump's going to annihilate him. He's going to look like a really sad grandpa that needs to go to a care home.
Oh, it's going to be terrible.
Like it was last time, which baffled us. I've never seen a guy look so pathetic in my life.
He's terrible, honestly, and the more you razzle him up, the less his brain works.
True, and that's a point, Orla. You mentioned low voter turnout. In 2016, the voter turnout was just over 55% or something. It was one of the worst for the US elections, whereas the last one was the biggest and greatest in its entire existence, which is a lot of bollocks. Especially as more's come out with more votes being proven to be illegal. That's not helping.
Questionable.
Well, yes, it certainly doesn't help the situation at all, does it? Especially when you're in a state like Nevada that voted blue, but if votes are compromised, then the system's compromised. It's tricky. We've run out of time as well, I've just realised. I'm so sorry.
Yes, that's all right.
Okay, are we here next week, Trups?
I think we will be, yes.
Okay, well, we'll keep you posted, folks. This will be on Rumble and Spotify tomorrow, as I'm going to be working on videos. I can do it then. Thank you all very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. If you did enjoy us rambling and not actually getting to some of the topics we were going to, like Ilhan Omar and Trump perhaps not being allowed to, or maybe being found guilty of that insurrection stuff, or perhaps even the accusations that Taylor Swift because Trump supporters are accusing her of plotting to rig the Super Bowl and the election. Yes, that's a thing. It's an article from one outlet at least. Guess which one? I know, The Independent. We'll see you all next week. Smash the like, and we'll see you then. Say goodnight, Trups.
Good night, Trups.